once again. I am the Notorious B.I.B. and this is my boy Pauly G.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
We're back. And
Back in black.
yeah, back in black and red. So anyway, last week you were wearing a bow tie.
Oh yeah, I was, wasn't I?
Yeah, so I don't know. What do you want to talk about today, Paul?
Well, last time we talking about divorce.
Yeah, we could talk about divorce. Because I had two guys that I work with, that I'm working with. And one went through a divorce a year ago. And he's very upset about it. Like it still bothers him. And another guy, his wife, just in December was like, hey, we're done.
Out of the blue?
No, they had separated for
Oh, okay.
They had separated for I don't know, probably since September or so.
Okay.
So the writing was kind of on the wall.
Right. Not out of the blue.
Yeah, but he has a pretty good attitude about it. But they didn't have children or anything like that. You know, and they've only been married probably like 5 years, something like that.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah. But divorce is like every situation is different, right?
Sure.
You can't really be like, divorce is this, right? It's
yeah. Having gone through it myself, and for me, I'd only been married for 3 years and didn't have any children. It was still very, very traumatic and very, very difficult, you know. So I can only imagine what it's like for people who have been married for, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, or people who have kids and then they still have to figure out how to get along with this person that they obviously don't get along with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's difficult exes who want to just make your life hell, right? You know, and then there's more amicable splits or whatever.
Right.
So
there's a friend of mine who she was married for a long time with kids and everything was just fine, and then let's see, I guess 2 years ago, her husband told her, for the first time, she had no idea. She said he told her that he was gay the whole time he was growing up, and up until when he met her. And then when he met her, he felt like, oh, I feel like I can be straight and I can be married to a woman and it's going to be okay. And he never told her.
Yikes.
So they're married all these years. They have these kids and everything's just fine. And then he tells her that, and then I'm like, wow. You know, when she told me that, I thought, well, that sounds so. I just thought, well, it sounds like things are over. And she's like, well, no, because we're still fine, and we still love each other and everything's fine. I'm like, oh, well, wow, that could have been a lot worse. I thought this was going to be a very different ending, but now they are divorced.
Yeah.
Because eventually it was like,
oh, so he told her he was gay. And
yeah.
They were still going to stay together?
Yeah, because it's not like he was having a hard time being in this marriage or anything like that. They didn't have, I don't know, I guess they did have problems, but as time went on, then it was like she started feeling like, well, it's complicated. But anyway, so now they're divorced.
That's very complicated.
And I'm just like, holy cow.
Yeah,
and I think that's pretty normal to have. Not normal, but I've heard that same story several times where somebody's like trying really hard to not be gay, So they get married thinking that's going to solve it, and then of course that doesn't really work.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know of any cases, even where it was like, even where the guy was like, hey, you know, like like she knew going into it, you know, that he'd struggled that way. Even in cases like that, like I've never seen it really work out very well,
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I guess it's understandable, you know. I mean,
Anyway.
yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, but yeah, so it's different for everybody.
Yeah, and then I mean, and then of course they're like all different reasons, right? I mean, if you know, if your spouse cheats on you or something like that, like that's way more hurtful, I guess, I would think, than like, well, we just can't get along, so, or whatever.
Right.
Or we fight all the time, you know?
Right.
I don't know.
In my previous marriage, my wife cheated on me, but I was willing to, you know, try to make things work out anyway.
Yeah. That's cool.
But she didn't want to.
Yeah.
And you can't force someone to be married to you if they don't want to. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well,
and in the end, it's like, well, it's probably a good thing we didn't stay married, because if I would have tried to make it, try to make it work, maybe I would just be in a really miserable marriage with kids,
mm-hmm.
or had kids and then got divorced or whatever. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I really feel like you should try your best to try to make it work out, though.
Yeah.
But I definitely think there are some reasons why it's okay to say, okay, well, we tried and this is not working. If you're really miserable,
Yeah.
and if you're miserable and you have kids, then you're now making your kids' lives miserable, and that's not cool.
No.
You're being a bad example to them about how to be in a healthy marriage, and they need love and support, and you probably are having a hard time doing that. Excuse me. If you're in an unhealthy marriage,
Yeah.
that's hard to be a good parent. So
yeah, I don't know. So this one guy, they had children together, and they were together for, I don't know how long. It's been a while though. And I don't know, like she started working out. She got a job, and like she was making more money than him, and she was seeing all these new people and whatever, and so that contributed to it, I think.
Yeah, I think you told me about this situation.
Okay. So, and I think it can be difficult, especially when you're not used to working outside the home. It can be difficult to it's just different when you're around the opposite sex all the time and whatever at work. You know what I mean? I mean, I've had to deal with it since, because I've always worked outside the home. But I think for a woman who hasn't done that, like just jumping into that situation, I think it's difficult.
I would guess for the average person that's not, but I'm not a woman and I don't know, but from my experiences, it doesn't seem like it is for most people.
Really?
But that's just my guess.
Yeah.
I haven't seen what you saw with your friend happen in other situations, so I just assume that it's probably not a big deal. But
yeah, of course you work at a junior high and stuff, which is a little different, maybe.
Well, for me, I'm used to being one of few men amongst a lot of female teachers, and so I'm used to being around a lot of female teachers, and that's just kind of the way it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what else? I used to think, so I used to think that, well, I mean, I used to think like marriage is sacred. I mean, I still think marriage is sacred, but I don't think, I think there are reasons, I think you can get, I think there, sometimes people just shouldn't be together,
Yeah.
you know, and I think marriage is sacred if you make it sacred, but if not, it can just be hell, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I think it's also important for an individual to set boundaries and stand up for themselves and not just be, treated like garbage and just say like, well, we're supposed to, I'm trying to make this marriage work out. And so I'm just going to be in this terrible marriage. Like,
yeah.
but I think you can do that by saying, um, like you can set boundaries and
Mm-hmm.
you can say, hey, in order for us to have a good marriage, I need this, this needs to happen, this needs to happen,
Yeah.
And if those things aren't happening, you can say, hey, okay, we need to take a break and let's come back in, a month or whatever, and let's try again. And if it's still not working, then, I think it's okay to do those things like that.
Sure.
And then you're not saying you're just going to give up on being married, but you're also standing up for yourself and not letting yourself be taken advantage of or be abused or that sort of thing.
Yeah, if you're in an abusive situation, it's like, you know, and I guess, and the thing is, like, it takes two, right? So like one person can screw it up, or the other person can screw it up, or both people can screw it up, right?
Right.
I mean, the only way it works is if both people make it work.
Yep.
And that's the interesting thing, though, because like 50%, you know, I've always heard, 50% of marriages end in divorce or whatever, and I thought, well, that's not a great, those aren't great odds.
No.
But if you think about it, though, like, you know, if the only way it works is for both people to make it work, then it really should be like 25%, right? Because like this person can screw it up, this person can screw it up, both people can screw it up. That's like 75. That's like 75%, right?
Yeah.
But 50% work.
I heard a quote not too long ago that somebody said, you've been married for however many, years, decades, and like, what's your secret? And they're like, you have to fight for it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of your marriage, but with my marriage, I can think there have been times when I was way in the wrong, and there are times when my wife was way in the wrong. And when I say way in the wrong, I mean like things that both of us could have said, like, I shouldn't have to put up with this. This is really terrible. But we were both patient and forgiving and waited until the other person made progress, and so now we're in a much better place. She's had bad times, I've had bad times. So if you call it quits, if you throw in the towel anytime something serious happens, I don't think very many people would stay married. I think everybody at some point is going to have some pretty tough challenges come up, and I think you should do your best to try to work through them.
Yeah. And even if you're right, even if you're and they're wrong, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, you still don't get to. Like, you still have to make it work. Like, you can't just be like, well, I'm right, therefore.
Well, the thing is, if that's your attitude, you're not going to stay married to anybody for very long.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Any relationship is not going to last for very long if that's your attitude towards it.
Yeah. I also think people should, before they get married, they should really like iron a lot of things out. Like that's when you say, hey, like, these are my needs, or my whatever, my expectations.
Maybe that's when you tell your fiance that you've been gay your entire life. That might be a good time to bring that up.
Right, exactly. Like, I mean,
not to make fun of him, because I think
Sure.
I think he was doing the best he could.
Yeah. Well.
But yeah, you're exactly right. I think I did that with my wife. I think you did it too. You're like, hey, here's some things that I've struggled with in my life that I think you
Mhm.
ought to know about.
Yeah, and not everyone does that. A lot of people are like, well, I'll get married and things will just like smooth over or whatever, you know. I mean, I know a lot of people do that. It's not a good thing though.
Well,
It's not a good thing to take secrets into your relationship.
if you look at the golden rule, I mean, would you want your spouse to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Would you? I mean, I don't expect I don't expect my wife to tell me every little terrible bad thing she's ever done in her entire life, but I mean like ongoing long-term problems that they tried to go that they tried to overcome and didn't for decades. Like that's different from
Yeah.
I did this one thing this one time and it never happened again, right?
Yeah, totally.
So,
Yeah. But I think, you know, and it's funny, I think the reason people don't do that is because like they don't want to jeopardize, you know, they don't want to rock the boat or whatever. But it's like,
yeah, so then you have a false relationship.
it's better to rock it before you're stuck. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
one thing with my wife is that we met in Las Vegas, but I did not want to raise our kids in Las Vegas. I wanted to move back to Utah, and so I told my wife, back then, before we were married, hey, just so you know, I don't want to live here forever. And so that's been something that's been hard because then she's not around her family. We're around all my family, and she's not.
yeah,
But I'm like, well, I told you that before we got married, So if you if that was a really if that was really a big issue, maybe you should have said that before we got married, because I made it clear before.
Yeah. But I mean, even then though, there's like, okay, you made this clear, but then is the option. It's either your way or she can not marry you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's exactly what she said. She's like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
that's not very fair to just say like, hey, but
Because Stephanie and I had the same deal where it was like she was like, hey, I don't want to use birth control, right? And I was like, well, that's weird. Can we talk about this? And there was just no talking about it really. And so it was basically like, well, I can marry her and we can not use birth control, or I can not marry her. Like those are my choices, you know. And so, and I married her, and it was hard. It was really hard, and it was like a thing in our marriage for a long time, like a point of contention. But we got through it, right? I mean, like I love her. I don't want to just be like upset for the rest of my life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And
but you're right though. Just because you bring something to the table doesn't mean that you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
You should still be willing to. Instead of just saying like, well, I told you that's the way it is. That's not a very great attitude. A better attitude would be like, well, can we talk about this? Like, I love you, and is it something that we can talk about?
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes like there are gonna be things like that where it's just like
this is not up for discussion.
Well, or like this is just how it's gonna be, I guess. So
yeah,
you can either
take it or leave it.
Well, you can you can make the best of it, or you can be upset about it forever. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what if you're gonna be upset about it forever? It's not gonna make you happy. Right. It's not gonna make your spouse happy.
Right.
So what's the point?
Right. Yep.
But it's hard. But here's what I always tell people. So we're Christian. So Jesus Christ, he got crucified, and none of those people apologized, right? They just like they made fun of him and were like, oh, if you're all powerful, why don't you take yourself off the cross? So, like, he never got an apology, and you know, the people didn't like take him down off the cross or any like, and he still had to just like forgive those people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
he suffered the most out of anybody, and he was perfect. So that's like the most unfair situation ever.
Yeah, it's completely unjust. And so if you ever feel like, oh, well, you know, I don't deserve this or whatever, you know,
welcome to being a person.
Yeah. I mean, we deserve probably a whole lot worse if we think about it. So, so don't, and we probably don't want to get what we deserve, right? Like, I don't think you should ever ask for, you know, oh, I deserve this or whatever. Like, I don't think you really want to get what you deserve when it's all said and done, right? So, but that's, you know, it's like, so yeah, you might not get an apology from your spouse, and they might be in the wrong and whatever. And you just got to be like, well, you know what? Okay.
And eventually, you know, because at least in my experience, eventually, if I'm in the wrong, I apologize to my wife, and if she's in the wrong, she apologizes to me. And sometimes we apologize just for being in a bad mood or whatever, you know, or raising our voices or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it'd be hard to be in a relationship with somebody who never apologizes for anything. I don't know if I can handle that, but
no, I mean, yeah, but occasionally there's gonna be that time where it's just like,
right,
you know, there's no use, you know, trying to be, well, I'm right and they're wrong, kind of a thing.
Right.
You just gotta move on.
One point of advice that people give sometimes is don't ever go to sleep when you're angry at each other, and I totally disagree with that, because I've tried to stay up trying to work things out when we're both tired and angry, and it was better when we just went to sleep and woke up the next morning and then we weren't angry at each other anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who came up with that.
Like, I think it's actually from the Bible.
There are times
don't let the sun set on a.
Is that the deal?
On contention or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta just. Sometimes you just have to say, look, time out. Let's go to sleep.
Yeah.
We can talk about this tomorrow.
But I think it's also important in a marriage or in a relationship to be able to say, hey, I don't want to have this conversation anymore. Like I'm getting upset. You're getting upset. I need to walk away, and we can come back later when we're not so upset with each other, no matter when it is.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. I hope that was I hope that was helpful. I've been married it'll be 24 years in June here.
Nice.
So, I mean, that's not like 50 years or anything, but it's something.
Still.
It's something.
Yeah. Well, you're just barely 50 years old, so.
Yeah. And how long have you guys been married?
We celebrated our 20th anniversary last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yep.
So, yeah. That's wild. So that's a while.
Yep.
And that's your second marriage, and your first marriage was a couple years.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Cool, man. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. I hope this was helpful. And if it wasn't, thanks for watching anyway. And we'll see you guys in the next video.
Take care.
See ya.